When a Chapter 7 bankruptcy petition is filed, and Chapter 7 is the preferable kind of bankruptcy that most people would like to file if they could, a trustee is appointed by the court. The trustee's job is to gather up all your assets and divide it amongst the creditors. And my job is to keep the trustee from doing that by claiming your assets as exempt. If you own your home, it is almost always best to use the Minnesota state exemptions rather than the federal exemptions because of the homestead exemption, which is so generous in the Minnesota state exemptions. But then you have to deal with the rest of what's on the Minnesota state exemption list, which used to be a much bigger problem than it is now. If you look at my YouTube channel and at my blog back in 2017, now the 2024 law really solves most of the problems that I described in 2017. I'm going to leave that video up for comparison purposes. Now the new statute exempts the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, a prayer rug, and other religious items up to $2,000 of value. They've added to the personal library exemption a value limit of $750, and they've added to the musical instrument exemption a value limit of $2,000. That should bring them back into being constitutional again so we can actually use those exemptions. Then they added a family pet exemption. Family pets up to $1,000. We didn't have an exemption for family pets before. Public assistance based on need. There always was a provision in the Minnesota statutes for that. But they added some things. What did they add? They added a provision for tax credits if they're based on need. The earned income tax credit is specifically listed as being exempt. The Minnesota working family credit is specifically listed as being exempt, and the renter's credit is specifically listed as being exempt. They now have a broad electronics provision. Before, if you look at my old video, I was complaining about it. I was sitting next to an antique radio saying, gosh, I'm sure glad this thing's exempt. So now the statute includes radios, computers, tablets, televisions, printers, cell phones, smartphones, and other consumer electronics of the debtor and the debtor's family. And besides that, household tools and equipment such as lawn mowers and snow blowers are listed up to a value of $3,000. Starting April 2025, there's going to be some kind of a sliding scale based upon your income. And the lower your income is, the more of your paycheck is going to be exempt. It starts at the 75% level, which it is now. But if your income's low enough, you can claim 85% of your paycheck as exempt. And if it's really low, you can claim 90% of your paycheck as exempt. The motor vehicle exemption has been doubled. It was $5,000, now it's $10,000. And last but not least, we have a wild card exemption. What's a wild card exemption? A wild card exemption is an exemption that can be used for anything that isn't covered somewhere else. There's no exemption here for guns that I can see. So let's say you have some guns. You got a $1,500 exemption that you could apply toward that. Or you could apply your wild card exemption to anything else that's hanging out there as not exempt. One limitation with the wild card, it only applies to bankruptcies. Consult your attorney. Every case is different. It's a new statute. None of it's been tested in the court. So stay tuned. Some of this might shift around a little bit. Please click like on this video. Please subscribe to my channel. And we'll talk to you again soon.